Good morning. Welcome to Unity Longmont Spiritual Center on the 11th of December. And today is the third Sunday of Advent, and we are celebrating love. So it's at this time that we go into prayer by taking breath together. Beloved presence everywhere present, we rest in divine love. We recognize that we are divine love. And with that knowledge and acceptance, we can make decisions that are good for us, for others, for our world. We are so grateful to have that gift, to have that identity, and to share that. We do that this morning as we celebrate together. And so it is. And we will hear from Christina and her harp. Christina, you're muted.
Well, let's try it again. I was enjoying it.
Thank you, Christina. It's beautiful. So this morning, as we celebrate love, we have music from Christina Hildebrandt, and we have a talk and meditation from Jenny Hooks. So we'll go back to the music, Christina. How beautifully angelic. Thank you so much. Let us open our hearts, our minds, and our spirit to Jenny.
Jay Gurudev, I want to, excuse me, I honor the divine within each of you. And as we were hearing the sound of God through Christina and the harp, I was looking at your beautiful faces thinking, look at the spark of divinity in each of these beautiful people here before me. And I was, well, even as I tell you it, I am moved to tears at the thought that the heart of God is right before me. And my only job is to see it, to recognize it, and to know it for sure. And I will tell you, over the last month, I have not had that clarity, that experience of looking in someone's eyes or looking at somebody's face and thinking, the spark of divinity is right there before me. And a few years ago, maybe many years ago, I think I first heard this idea of moving from the mind to the heart is the true spiritual journey. And I've got a long ways to go on this journey, but I remembered my thought process from many years ago and thought, so I've made some progress. Because when I first heard this journey of the heart, the journey of the mind to the heart is 30 centimeters. I went into Nurse Jenny mode and said, well, if a man is 5'10" and the journey from the mind to the heart is 30 centimeters, and the average woman is 5'3", and I convert that to centimeters, a woman's journey to the heart is shorter than a man's. Now, I don't want you to think I missed the point of that talk, but maybe I did the first time I heard it. And thinking of the World Cup soccer match that's been in the news, I would just like to say, I guess the score was the mind 1, the heart 0. So I've learned through my process that if I'm anxious, nervous, where is my faith? Because anxiety rests in fear, and one who rests in faith knows that if their house burns down, that God has already built another space for them to be in, or has created something for them. And I, since Thanksgiving, have had an unusual amount of anxiety, and anxiety is exhausting. So at the end of my workday, I'm just like wanting to plop down on the sofa and not do anything for the rest of the night because I'm so tired. And I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. My meditation practice was becoming mechanical and I guess what I would call the bare minimum, you know? And then I thought, okay, but what do I know about my meditation practice? And that is, I do Atma-Kriya yoga, and there's 14 or 15 different meditations. And generally people do 3 or 4 a day. And one of them is specifically to control the breath, which leads to controlling the mind. I thought, well, gee, that seems like a good place for you to be starting and doing at least daily or twice a day or all day. And I put my house on the market and I get a lot of people coming to see it and not any reasonable offers. The offers have come from investors who think, oh, it's been on the market long enough, she'll take a big cut. But I'm in no rush to move. You know, there's nothing pushing me out the door. And it's been frustrating, you know, getting up in the morning and making your house look like nobody lives here. So you take all your toiletries and put them in a basket and put it in a cabinet. And, you know, it's tedious, I guess. But I thought, I'm not attached to this house. I'm not feeling pressured to get to New York, but this isn't going right, as I would say, not going right. Like it should be smoother. It should be easy, you know, whatever I think. And in a moment of clarity in my meditation, I thought, well, part of the spiritual journey is becoming humble. And if I say it's not going right, that's not particularly humble, because I'm saying, God, you're doing it wrong. This isn't working out the way I think it should. And I was further humbled by the realization that I had given a talk to this group of people not too long ago, talking about how when there's a situation that we think should go a certain way, we have forgotten the limited nature of God, and that for every solution or way I think things should be, God's probably got a million more. And what is, who am I to be saying this isn't going right? And yet I still didn't, it made me feel better. And I went from a anxiety level of 8 to an anxiety level of 5, but I'm still uncomfortable and not understanding why I feel the way I feel and why I'm anxious and irritable. And the only time I feel not anxious and irritable is when I go to work and I sit in my car for a minute before I enter a home, and I get centered on my heart. And I say, let my heart rule this visit. I think I've come here because I'm going to change a dressing or do some form of care. But I am aware that there's maybe a much higher purpose to my visit, some love or comfort that I could give to this child or this family. And so I go in and I do the visit and I leave and I feel better. And then I get in the car and I drive and think, and I'm back to my crazy state in no time at all. So Tuesday afternoon, I'm driving to Louisville to see this young man who's a quadriplegic with cerebral palsy, and I love to visit him. And the reason I love to visit him is when I go in the house, he has the most beautiful smile. His face lights up and he looks at me, and I just can't get over that smile. I mean, I don't see him very often because he's very stable. So, every month or so, but I look forward to it every time he's on my schedule. So I'm driving there and my son Luca calls, and he doesn't say, "Hey, Mom, how are you?" He says, "Hey, Mom, how are you doing?" And I said, "Fine. Why do you ask?" And he says, "I've been having a hard time for the past few days. December 1st was the anniversary of when I watched them drop you on the floor in the ER, followed by them starting to do CPR. And he says in 2017, and he says, and in 2012, on this very day, we were in a car accident and I had an alcoholic father and you were the dependable one. And suddenly you can't tell the difference between a washing machine and a microwave." So it really rattled me because I was 13 and everything changed. And the person I depended on most in the world had lost her mind, literally. And he's doing some trauma therapy. So I'm sure it came up in a new way for him because of the hard work that he's doing. Well, we got off the phone and I had to pull over for a minute. And I thought, all of this crazy was my unconscious mind ruling my world. And I have just laughed, not really that funny, but thought about so many of the thoughts that have come into my mind over the last couple of weeks. So some of those thoughts were being in grade school at St. Timothy's School. And I just keep remembering that I would always sit on the left side of the church, because on the left side, there was this wooden, beautifully carved statue of Divine Mother. And church was often blah, 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 Catholicism to me. And so I would just sit and stare at Mary. And I thought, isn't that interesting that I keep thinking about Mary and Divine Mother and what she represents: security, protection, caring. And I thought about, I wonder if I have another kidney stone, which is what precipitated this whole CPR catastrophe. Now, I don't know why I thought, I wonder if I have another kidney stone, because you don't know you have a kidney stone until it gets big enough to cause pain. But there could be a tiny one sitting in there right now, or it could be a big one that's just not blocking anything. But I haven't had a kidney stone since 2019. It's not something I think about. So why in the last few weeks have I been wondering, I wonder if I have a kidney stone? And then I think to myself, I wonder if I've really forgiven those people in the emergency room who were so callous and took my life for granted. And because my pain wasn't controlled after one shot, they gave me a whopping dose, which stopped my heart and respirations, because they made the conclusion if one dose didn't work, she's a nurse, she must be a drug addict, so we better give her a lot of medicine to control her pain. Well, why was I thinking about that? So when Luca calls and says all this to me and we hang up, I have to pull over and cry for a minute. I have to just stop what I'm doing, because shouldn't be operating heavy machinery at that moment. And I took some deep breaths, but I felt such a relief. I thought, oh, this is where all that was coming from. And it was like putting down a backpack full of rocks. I mean, I just felt, once I just took those few minutes, I felt so much better. And I have not finished processing this by any means, but I thought this whole moving thing, giving up your house and moving somewhere else, there's a sense of security in having a home or a safe place to live. And so being in this transitional place of, well, I'm going to sell this place and then I'm going to find a place in New York. And, in between, you're sort of homeless, until you get from one place to the next. And I thought, so maybe some of this was not feeling a sense of security. And again, totally on an unconscious level, these feelings of whatever's going on. And I go back to my meditation and it's getting better, but it's still, well, what I call practicing, because I don't think I've achieved a state of true meditation, maybe ever, but certainly not anything close recently. So I can't get my phone to turn off the noise. I'm just kind of in this funny space. So then I'm thinking, okay, so what am I going to talk about on Sunday to these folks at Unity, these divine beings who show up with their spark of divinity that I can see in their smile, in their hearts, in all of the things that I know that you do in your life. And what do I have to say to them? Because I certainly haven't been humble, and everything's been a struggle. And when you're on the spiritual path and you're asked to speak to people about spiritual things, you feel like you should have it all together. I feel like I should have it all together, let's say. So I come before you in the midst of the struggle. So I started going through my literature thinking, I think I'm going to look for the topic of humility. And I can't really find anything that fits. But when my kids were little, not even actually I probably would still say it today. But when they were younger, they would say things like, Mom, why didn't you remember to tell me to take my poster to school for that assignment I had today? And Mom, why did you not tell me that I left my shoes in the car? I've been looking for them for 15 minutes. So, after you take this kind of accusation a few times, I come up with a sarcastic response, which is, "Do you guys hear that?" And they stop and they're silent. "Hear what?" They said, "I think a teacup broke in China. It must be my fault. I better call Amazon and order a new one." So to this day, my kids sometimes will say to me, "Mom, did you just break that teacup in China?" And they know it's because they're not taking responsibility. So I did teach them something for something they forgot or didn't do. So when I'm looking for something on humility, I am distracted by the story called The Story of the Teacup. And I read it and I said, I think even though it wasn't under the topic of humility, it may be the story that I need to hear for myself, and hopefully is something that will help you along your journey as well. And this is from Just Love by Paramahansa Swami Vishwananda. There was a couple who went to Japan for the celebration of their 25th wedding anniversary. As the husband wanted to give his wife something beautiful, they were looking in an antique shop and found a beautiful teacup. The husband said, "Look at this beautiful cup." And as they were looking, the cup started to talk to them. The cup said, "Yes, I am beautiful, but you don't know what process I went through for me to be how I am right now." Then the cup started telling the story. "I used to be dirty red clay. My master took me from the earth and brought me to this place. Then he started patting me, rolling me, beating me. I tell you, it was not an easy process. I got hurt and I was screaming. The master just nodded, saying, 'Not ready yet.' After patting me, the master put me on the potter's wheel and started spinning me. I felt dizzy. After he finished spinning, I was thinking, now I can breathe a little bit. He took me and put me in an oven. And I tell you, I have never experienced such heat in my life before. So I was knocking on the door of the oven and pushing it. I could see the master outside. He looked at me. He saw me and he just nodded, saying, 'Not yet.' From inside the oven, I could read from his mouth, 'Not yet.' When I was feeling that surely I would die, the door opened and I was taken out and I could breathe again. After a few hours of breathing, the master came and glazed me. Then he started painting me. I was suffocating. I was struggling. I was thrown into another oven. This time, the heat was even higher. And here I was thinking I would explode and die, finished. When my hope was going down and down and down, the master opened the door. I was thinking I would die, but when the master opened the door, I was breathing again. He put me on a shelf, and for hours, I was on the shelf. After a while, I was calm and cool and clean. The master came to me with a mirror, put the mirror in front of me, and he showed me how beautiful. When I looked in the mirror, I could not recognize myself, how beautiful I had become. Then I spoke with the master, and the master told me, if I had left you as clay, of course, you would just be dust. forgotten. I took you. I patted you. I made you soft. I put you on the wheel and spun. I knew that it was hard for you, but if I had not done that, you would not have that form, that shape. I know I put you in the oven, and that was a burden. Then I glazed you. If I had left you out after the first bake, when you were not hard, you would break and crack. So I painted you and made you beautiful. But I just let you dry like this. But if I just let you dry without going back in the oven, the paint would not show anything. So I put you in the oven again. But all the time that you were there, my eyes were upon you. There was not a single moment when my eyes were not upon you. And now you are beautiful. And this story explains the grace of the master, because everybody in life wants life how we think it should be. And life isn't here to be easy. Life is an opportunity for us to develop our relationship with the divine, for us to be purified, for us to let go of all that isn't God. And so when we focus on the material world, a house, an experience, whatever it is we focus on, that is the moments that we are not focused on our relationship with the divine. And so even our unconscious mind creates a separation from us from moving towards that relationship with the divine. And reading this story last night, I said, so everything I experienced, even if I'm not proud of the way I felt or behaved or the way I was thinking, was a little tiny oven for me to burn off some of the crap that I still carry with me from childhood. And I, after reading this, and I think about how I didn't get in trouble in church when I was bored, was by focusing, just staring at that statue of Divine Mother, was just such a reminder for me that Divine Mother, that God's eyes are always upon me. And even when I close my eyes, like when a 3-year-old will close their eyes, you can't see me, because they've done something they shouldn't have done. Well, I think that's a little bit how I've operated, like when I try to separate myself from God, I'm like, don't see me, don't see me. God still sees me. And God is always with me, regardless of my chaos, of my, I'm going to veg out and watch TV instead of read or spend a reasonable amount of time in my meditation practice. Or, when I think of somebody, say from my, like I'll think of a friend. I used to think I should, oh, that's nice, I thought of my friend. Well, now I think, I haven't talked to them in a few weeks. Maybe I'm thinking about them because they need a call. They need a friend right now. So when I go into my vegetative state, I'm not responding to those thoughts from a spiritual place of, I'm just going to call and reach out to them. And, if they don't need anything from me and we just have a great talk, that's wonderful for both of us. And sometimes I call and they were, I'm having a really hard time. And, I find out what's going on with them and they feel less alone with their personal struggle. But you can't do that when you're vegged out. And yeah, it was a part of my process to work through whatever was pushing me down so I could let go of another piece of something I carry on my journey that is not helpful to moving towards my relationship with God on a higher level. So from here, let's go into meditation and just take a few deep breaths. Maybe think about, just for a brief moment, the person you were 5 years ago, 10, 20, whatever point in time you'd like, where maybe you weren't the person you are today. Maybe a person with more resentments or weren't proud of the way you were behaving. And don't dwell on it, just see it with the eyes of the observer. And see that person with love and compassion. Bring Divine Mother, Jesus, some form of God to that situation and just allow the light to shine on that person. And if you can, even offer gratitude for where you were on the journey, knowing that you are evolving. And some of the dust and the dirt that surrounds your Atma has been cleaned away. And your heart, your Atma, is shining ever brightly, no matter how much debris is in the way. And just see the debris beginning to fall away. And see that light shining brighter. Know that your true self is that light, is your Atma, is your spark, and all the rest is just debris. And as you become aware of the chair you're sitting in and you begin to come back to the room, Continue to let that light shine. Know that you are beautiful, that you are loved, and that you are the light of God. And so it is.
As always, Jenny, thank you for the inspiration, the reminder, and that we are all connected. Thank you. We will hear from Christina.
So I recently, my dream came true, and I got myself a tanpura, which is an Indian drone instrument. And I've been playing around with it and having a lot of fun in my sound healing practice, laying it on people's bodies and strumming the instrument. It's really a wonderful instrument. I've been playing with kind of traditional Western melodies with this open tuning that the tanpura offers. And so I'm going to do a rendition of this moment of Silent Night for you. And it will be very different from what you're used to. So I invite you to stay in the space that Jenny has created for us and that you have created for yourselves. And just enjoy the lullaby.
Oh, wow, Christina, thank you for the music and for your beautiful voice. Thank you. It's at this time that we go into our donation of love and light, again by taking a breath together and placing our hands on our heart. Becoming deeply aware of that love and that light that we are. With grace and ease, we can allow it to expand. We can observe it in all its beauty and magnificence being shared with the world. We recognize we are called to share this love and light, to be this love and light. And aware of our breath, we say thank you that we have this opportunity at any time. And so it is. And we will finish with music from Christina. You're muted.
I'm a little out of tune, sorry.